It's Thursday, November 3rd. Tonight, we'll show you how researchers are developing a system that will recognize criminals, even if it's been decades since they were last photographed. Next on North Carolina Now.
Funding for this program is made possible in part by UNC TV members.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shannon Vickery. Thanks for joining us. Tonight on North Carolina Now, we'll show you the work of a group of researchers at UNC Wilmington. They're developing a system that can predict how a person's face will age. The technology could be used to catch criminals and terrorists. Our guest tonight is Billy Ray Hall from the North Carolina Rural Economic Development Center. He'll tell us about a forum that's looking to inspire hope and leadership in small towns across our state. And later, we'll visit the Fine and Performing Arts Center at Western Carolina University. But first, predicting how a face will age. Security and law enforcement agencies can use facial recognition cameras to scan thousands of faces and possibly identify a known criminal or terror suspect. But it all depends on having an accurate photograph of a suspect to compare to real life. If that photo is years or even decades old, it's not much help. A research team at UNC Wilmington believes the technology can be improved. Kelly McCullen shows us how.
A small UNC Wilmington research team is investigating what it calls the big white elephant in the world of homeland security. The federal government tracks terror suspects through extensive computer databases, but cameras have shown promise in recent years for identifying suspects through automatic computer analysis.
Right now, we base things on names, but we want to be able to stop these individuals using some automated technology like face recognition to prevent them from coming in our country and doing something dangerous.
Current facial recognition technology can identify someone if it holds a recent photograph to make the comparison. But the Morph team says suspects who have not been photographed in recent years are nearly guaranteed to beat current facial recognition systems.
So there's a 5% chance that this or these methods will actually pick you out, given that we have an image of you that's 5 or 10 years old.
Currently, our face recognition technologies do not take into account effects such as wrinkling or aging.
We can train these computers and develop computer algorithms.
The team relies on forensic anthropologist Dr. Midori Albert's research. She found information out there on specific areas of facial aging, but none of it was compiled into a full study of the face and how it changes with years.
I think the real issue is that lots of people know about lots of different specific areas of the skull that change with age. The issue was that there wasn't one central location where all of these different professions that have studied face aging come together.
So the Morph team is building that comprehensive archive. They're examining how computers could see past weight changes, wrinkles, beards, or gray hairs and identify someone who will quite likely look different than a few years before. If they can do that, it could change photography for law enforcement and facial recognition technology.
The first approach would be to try to update face recognition techniques so they could recognize people that had aged or changed. But the second approach that this is sort of focused toward is let's make pictures that look more like the people now.
One great challenge is writing a computer formula based on that information that understands how our faces age in several common ways despite genetics.
The extent of those wrinkles is going to vary, and the timing of them will vary, but there's a general sequence that occurs where most people will begin to show wrinkling and aging in a general pattern.
We can actually do calculations on how the wrinkles formed, how deep they are, how long they are, sort of attributes of those wrinkles, and say, okay, did we see this pattern early on? Okay. Now we have other algorithms that actually look at this and say, could we have predicted that this would have occurred?
The answer could be yes, but it requires an intensive study of all types of faces using traditional photographs and new three-dimensional snapshots.
We use 2 cameras to extract 3 dimensions from you.
If the Morph team learns what we all have in common when getting older, they can take old photographs of current fugitives or terror suspects and recreate 3D headshots that have accurate wrinkles and other changes.
We may get lucky and find a picture of that individual, but what happens if that picture is from the 80s? Does he look the same? Does she look the same? You know, would we be able to identify, stop that person from taking an airplane over?
And our current technology would require that that suspect look the same as he did years before.
This doesn't lead well to automatically being able to pick people up at borders or in airports who are known suspects, especially if our pictures aren't current.
Dr. Midori Albert says beneath our skin, the skull undergoes subtle changes that experts can easily find, but some facial features will never stray with the decades.
From one pupil to the other, regardless of whether you gain weight or lose weight, or your skin sags or wrinkles, that would stay the same.
The Morph team will examine about 65 of these physical landmarks on our face that can be measured and studied in facial aging. Turning the research into user-friendly software is still a few years away because those landmarks must be scrutinized for efficiency in accurately aging all photographs.
Our research is not at a point where we can go and point and click. It's very much typing in computer code and telling the computer exactly what we need it to do.
In some ways, the goal is giving computer software a human nature for recognizing faces and recognizing that we can't help changing with the years.
In many senses, we're still miles away because humans are just so good at picking up on characteristics of people. We look at them all day long, every day, and we know someone's face, what stays the same about it. And we know that somebody's changed, but we're still going to recognize them. And that's what we want to try to get to with all of this.
And if the UNCW researchers discover that outward appearance can't fool facial recognition cameras, or that police can accurately age fugitive photos the longer he runs, it leaves suspects little hope that years will buffer them from justice.
Short of really hurting yourself, I don't think there's much that you can do.
Defense agencies are supporting the Morph team's research. You can learn more online. Visit our website at unctv.org/NCNow for a link. Coming up, we'll tour the new Fine and Performing Arts Center at Western Carolina University. But first, here's Mitchell Lewis with a look at the rest of today's statewide news. Good evening, Mitch.
Hello, Shannon. Good evening, everyone. House Speaker Jim Black has selected a new person to serve on the Lottery Commission. He appointed former UNC at Charlotte Chancellor Dr. James Woodward today.